Good evening.
Kabod Harav, how are you?
Thank God.
Oh, Hashem.
Good evening. Howdy.
Okay. Facebook. Okay. So we're going to continue with this chapter Nun Zayin.
Aren't we going to do a new chapter today? No.
Let's see what we got. Maybe you're right. Maybe we finished it. We finished Nun Zayin?
I think so. I thought we were going to start today the Shema, no? The loss and the Shema.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, I think you're right. I'm sorry. Yes.
Well, it won't hurt if we, review a little bit from yesterday and then we go to the loss and the Shema.
You're right. Okay, so let's see what we can do here. Yeah, laws of Shema. Okay, here we go. Let's get started. So it says, "V'korin Kriyat Shema u'marchin shtayim lefanea ve'echad lecharea." So it says, we read Kriyat Shema. There's two blessings before and one blessing after. That's in the morning, right? Uve'erev, but in the evening, shtayim lefanea u'shtayim lecharea. There's two before and two after. V'samachum al pasuk. It says they it's alluded to in the verse. Where is that? It says in Tehillim, Kuf Yutet, Sheva b'yom hilalticha. I blessed you 7 times, it says. Al mishpatet tzidkecha, because of your righteous judgments. Ve'hu she'agia zmana, but it says that you have to have the proper time for that, right? To read the Shema. Me'matai zmana, when is the proper time for Shema? So it says the Tur, if you can see your friend who you know him not too bad, right? From Dal Amot. If you can see him from 4 Amot away, which is 2 meters, and you recognize him, that's already time for the Shema. So what does that mean? We require that there should be a little bit of light there, on the horizon. It's not pitch dark anymore. But honestly, I'll tell you, that what I see from experience is that the naked eye can't really see this nuance so well. So what does that mean to the untrained eye? It still looks like it's pitch dark at that time. But there seems to be some kind of a light there that helps you to recognize people. This usually happens on the average after dawn, right? Which is called Amud HaShachar. Usually happens about 6 to 10 minutes before that. After that, right? After dawn. 6 to 10 minutes after. And then that's already the time you can see your friend like that. Okay, let's see. I'm just giving you some preview here a little bit, but it's best to read the text. Anyway, so it says, right, that's the beginning time. What about the end? What is the final time for Shema? Ad sof gimel sha'ot, until the end of the third hour, right? The third hour of the day. It doesn't mean, by the way, 3 o'clock. That's not what it means, right? When it says third hour, it means the third hour after the sunrise. There's also dispute about that in the halakha. Is it after sunrise or is it after dawn? But that's the latest time. So what does that mean? That we're talking about now men, obviously, because women are not obligated for Shema. But since men are obligated, that means that they should get up on time, and say it on time. Don't be lazy daisy, getting up late, getting up at 9:30, 10 o'clock. Whoa. Too late. How are you going to catch the Shema like that? You're going to miss it. So you got to get up early bird. But that's the way to live in life, People who have a late schedule, I feel sorry for them. They don't really get much done in their life. You got to be early birds. By the way, it says this in the Pirkei Avot. What does it say? Now is the time to learn Pirkei Avot, right? Between Pesach and Shavuot. So it says in Pirkei Avot that a person who sleeps in the morning, this removes him from the world. So it's considered to be a big vice, to sleep in the morning. So the question is, what does that mean, right? He sleeps in the morning. So it says the commentary there, it means that he misses the Kriyat Shema, right? He sleeps so much, he doesn't do the Kriyat Shema on time. So that removes him from the world, because that means that he's spiritually in a bad place. Shem should help us. Not in a good place there. So that's why he gets removed from the world, because he loses his holiness like that. He loses his proper orientation in life. So because of that, it removes him from the world. You know what happens to a person, right, who doesn't say Kriyat Shema on time? It says in the commentaries that the Yetzer Hara goes with him all day, the evil inclination. So what does that mean? He's not able to really get much done spiritually in a bad shape. So he's got to make sure he gets up on time and does everything on time. Right? And this way he'll stay in the world for a little bit longer because he's doing the right things in life. He's got the right priorities. So as we said, right, the first time that he can do is when he recognizes his friend. The last time is the third hour. When does that turn out to be, the third hour, the end of the third hour? So if you calculate it according to the sunrise, right, it'll come out to be like at this time of year in New York, it'll be about 9:20 or so. Depending on where you live, the horizon is different, so the time will vary. But it's about that time. So 9:20 will be like the last time you can say Kriyat Shema on time. That's the end of the third hour. Other times of the year, when it's not daylight savings and so forth and so on, so time can be much earlier. 8:30 could be 8:40, whatever, depending on the season. Sometimes it can be much later also. It could be like 10 o'clock, depending on, because we go according to halachic times, not according to the times of the regular clock. Okay, good. So then he says, ומצווה מן המובחר לקרותה כוותיקים שהיו מכוונים לקרותה מעט קודם מנצח חמה כדי שיסיים אותה וברכותיה. So he says, but when is the best time to say the Kriyat Shema? Right? So that's called, the best time is called vatikin. Right? What does vatikin mean in Hebrew? It means the ancient people, right? The men of yore, whatever you want to call it, right? So who are the Vatikin? These are the guys who were tzaddikim. They were righteous people. So what they used to do is they get us to get up early, and they would read the Shema when? Right before sunrise. So like today, for instance, right over here in New York, sunrise was 5:53, something like that, right? Whatever. So it's getting pretty early because we're getting to the summer now. 5:53. So that means that you should say the Kriyat Shema like at 5:50. That's the best time, or 5:45, depending on how fast you go, right? That's the best time to say Kriyat Shema, right before the sunrise. And then once they finish Kriyat Shema, what do they do after that? They do the blessing right afterwards, God Yisrael, and then with the Netzach Hama, with the sunrise, they start to pray Amidah. Right? That's called praying Benetz, right? We call that. You pray Benetz. What does that mean, Benetz? You pray at sunrise, like a good pious Jew. We call you Vatikin, right? You're the men of yore, the men of renown, the men of the ancient men, whatever, right? Vatikin. Okay, so that's that.
Yes.
Yes.
How do you calculate these hours? It's not 1 hour exactly, no, or it's less than an hour?
Right. So what we do is like this. The calculation goes like this. You take the day, right, during your season, and you divide it up into 12 units. So each unit becomes an hour. So in the summer, the hours get longer, and in the winter, the hours get shorter. So in accordance with that, that's how you calculate it.
Thank you.
But if you're not sharp enough to do all this stuff, right? What you do is you get a nice calendar, right? And it'll tell you.
Yes, but what if I don't have the calendar? What do I do? So
download it. Download. Press that download button.
No, I do have a printed one, but
Yeah, there's no. You don't really need to print it today. You can just download it.
What about for Shabbat?
It'll be on your phone.
Well, but for Shabbat.
What about for Shabbat? Check it on Friday.
Well, hopefully I remember the hour.
Don't forget. The truth is, that one day doesn't really move a lot. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay.
in other words, if on Friday it was 5:50, so Shabbat will be 5:49. Like in other words, it just goes down 1 minute or whatever. Depends. Okay. So it's not going to be a big difference on Shabbat. You know what I mean? Only 1 minute difference.
Okay, thank you.
So you can rest easy. You can sleep well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
No problem, right? That's the way it goes. Yeah. So once you get used to these things, then everything is well known. So yeah. So if you want to do the best time, the Shema is best time Shema. Oh, also, by the way, according to Zohar Kadosh, it says also there, that the real proper time for Shema is right before sunrise. Exactly what we're saying over here. And according to the Zohar, that's like a big thing, it's a big deal. If you don't say it, it's a deal breaker, at that time, if you don't say it. So according to the Zohar, you got to be really careful about that. Also, according to Rambam, by the way, he brings the Rambam here now, right? And we'll see what the Rambam says here. Yeah. By the way, there was one guy who studied Kabbalah that I knew. I met him like many years ago. And he told me something interesting. He says that the Arizal, who was the great Kabbalist of the last 500 years, when it comes to halacha, they say, that he always went like the Rambam in everything, So, the question is why, right? There's many other poskim, as we've seen in Bet Yosef, right? There's no shortage of poskim. So why was he always going like the Rambam? So he said that the Rambam had such great wisdom, that his knowledge of the simple meaning of the Torah comes close to the Kabbalah. Like in other words, that's how wise he was. That's how sharp he was. So therefore, he used to do everything like the Rambam. That's what I heard from somebody. It's interesting. Okay, whatever. That's a good. Yeah. It's and by the way, you should know, right, that like 80% of the Shulchan Aruch is straight out of the Rambam. So 80% of the time we pass like the Rambam. The Ashkenazim a little bit less, right? 70%, maybe 60%. But we as Sfarim, we go like the Rambam, like 80%, 90%. Pretty much. So you see, right, that according to all these things that we're saying, that's exactly, by the way, what it says also in the Avkat Rochel, which was the response of Maran Bet Yosef, the same author that wrote Bet Yosef. He says over there, Rambam, who Gedola Poskim, says he was a great of the Poskim, the greatest of the Poskim. That's what he writes over there. So so he gets a lot of credit, the Rambam. He was a big man. By the way, the truth is, they say he never really studied Kabbalah. He didn't really have a Rebbe for that. But his wisdom was so great that it comes close to the Kabbalah. That's an amazing thing. Very sharp. Okay, great. So anyway, right? Let's go back. Let's get back to earth. Back down to earth, right? Back to earth. Okay, so it says. So that's what the Rambam says. So he says the proper way to do it is start the Kriyat Shema before sunrise. In order that you should do the last blessing, which is God Yisrael, right at sunrise, and you go into the Amidah. ושיעור זה כמו שיעור שעה אחד קודם שיעלה השמש. Right? So he says that what is the measure of this? Right? That's the question. So he says the measure is, it's like 1 hour before sunrise. So this doesn't seem to fit in with the way we're talking here. And we're going to see, by the way, that this is a mistake here. There's a misprint over here in the Rambam where it says 1 hour. It really shouldn't say 1 hour. We'll see what it's really supposed to say. But anyway, it says, so it says the Rambam, whoever is able to do this, to do the Kriyat Shema before Netz, before sunrise, and then the Amidah at Netz, he gets a great reward for that, So, right? So a person, who's able to do that, he's an early riser, one of those guys. So if you are an early riser, you should be, by the way. If you're not, you should become one. We already learned that in the beginning, right? When we started, that a person should get up early. That's the first halakha that we learned. So therefore, right, a person should be an early riser. And if he is, then what should he do? Right before Netzach Hama, right before the sunrise, that's when he says Shek Kriyat Shema, and then do the Amidah at sunrise. Right? And his reward is great. That's what it says in Rambam. Not only that, look what he says, right? He's assured to be a member of the world to come because he prays at sunrise. There you go. Right? So sometimes people ask me, like, what's the big deal, praying nets, it's a big deal. Yeah, I should know. It's a big deal. Try to do it if you can. Okay. Anyway. Not only that, he won't be harmed that day at all. He says, no, he'll receive no harm. If he prays at nets, he's assured to have protection. Pretty good deal. But he says, if he was unable to do this, because he has to go on the road, let's say, right? He's traveling, he's got a flight, right? He's flying from Florida to New York. So he's got a flight at that time. So he can't pray at nets. So then what should he do that day? So then what he can do is, right after the dawn, after the dawn comes, you can already read the Kriyat Shema, right? So this is like not the best way to do it, but if you got no choice, you can do it after dawn. When is dawn? Dawn is 72 minutes before sunrise. This is also halachic hours, right? Whatever. So, but 72 minutes, right? That's pretty much the constant thing there. So he says if he read it after dawn, b'diavad, he fulfills obligation. Even though he wasn't forced to do that, he didn't have a flight, right? No Spirit Airlines, right? He didn't have Spirit there that day, right? But nevertheless, if he did it, if he read the Shema after dawn, he fulfills obligation. Because it is the time for the Shema. What does that mean? It's already daytime. So even though it's dark outside during dawn, right? When you look outside during dawn, it's still dark. But nevertheless, right, the light is already beginning to come through there. Even though the naked eye can't see it, but that's the way it is. So therefore, if he read it at that time, he fulfills obligation. Okay, so we'll wrap up the tour here, and then we'll go to Beit Yosef. So he says, so therefore, since he already fulfills obligation, then he doesn't have to read it again. Like before sunrise. He doesn't have to do that. Because he already fulfills obligation. That's it, he's done. But he says, you know what? He shouldn't be accustomed to do so. So what does that mean? Don't get up every day and say Shema at dawn, because it's too early. That's not the best time. You only do this, when there's no other choice, like, whatever. You're traveling, whatever. You got a plane to catch, right? That's something else. But otherwise, you should say it at the right time, which is when, as we said, before sunrise. Okay, very good. So then he goes on. Okay, well, we'll stop there. We'll do the Beit Yosef there. We got to do Beit Yosef, catch up there. Okay, this Shulchan Aruch. Let's bring another Beit Yosef also. But since we're here, I'll bring it up anyway. We're going to need it. Okay, now Beit Yosef. Okay, good. So it says Beit Yosef here. Mishnah Basot Perek Kama de Brachot. It's a Mishnah in the first Perek of Brachot. Right, at the end over there. Yud Aleph Amud Aleph. B'Shachar. It says over there, in the morning, Mevarech Shtayim Lefanea Ve'achat Lechalea. You do 2 blessings before Kriyat Shema and 1 blessing afterwards. Uba'erev, and in the evening, Mevarech Shtayim Lefanea Ve'Shtayim Lechalea. You bless 2 before and 2 after. Umash Katav V'Samchum Al Pasuk Sheva B'Yom Hiraticha. Now, which it says that they relied on this verse to give you 7 blessings there. Who Birushalmi Perek Haya Koreh. It's in the Yerushalmi. It says this whole thing. Then it goes on to the time, right? So it's a Mishnah over there, Tet Amud Bet in Brachot. It says there, Mematay Korin the Shema Shachrit. When do we start to read the Shema in the morning? Mishakir ben Tchelit Lelaman. First opinion says the Mishnah, we can tell the difference between white and blue. Rabbi Eliezer Omer ben Tchelit Karti. Right, Rabbi Eliezer says no, between blue and green. The Gemara, Tanya, says the Gemara, Rabbi Meir Omer, it says Rabbi Meir, Mishakir ben Zev lekelev. if you can recognize between a dog and a dog and a wolf, right? Okay. We can recognize between them. There's also another opinion there. If you can see his friend, right, with distance of 4 amot, and recognize him, that's the way we paskin, right? Like this opinion. Amar Rav Huna, says Rav Huna, halacha ke'acherim. The halacha is like acherim, right? You guys want to know why do we call this Rabbi Acherim? You know, it's a strange name, no? Anybody know why we call him Acherim? Right, so this guy, that was like they gave him a nickname like that. That wasn't his real name. So what was his real name? Elisha ben Avuya.
Wasn't that the rabbi of Armeir Belones? No?
Yes.
They
We
give
call
him
him Acherim. Why is that? They gave him a nickname because he became a Rasha. He became wicked, you know? He became a sinner, became a heretic. So therefore, they erased his name, you know? It's because it's a mitzvah to erase the name of the wicked.
And what happened to him?
He died.
Oh yeah, but somebody who knows so much Torah, what happens? You know?
I'm sorry?
Somebody who knows so much Torah and goes off the derek like that. Didn't he go up to Pardes, and after that, that's when he went off or something like that?
Yeah, right. That's the story. Yeah, that's the story. So anyway, that's why we call him Acherim.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Anyway, so watch out. You better be a good boy, good girl. You know, otherwise they're going to give you a nickname like that. Don't get a nickname from the rabbis. God forbid. Okay. All right. So, Ve'amina Yerushalmi, right? We're saying Yerushalmi, Misha'ir'et Chavero, when he sees his friend. So it says in the Yerushalmi asked a question about this, right? What are we talking about here? What kind of friend are we talking about? Right? Does that mean you know him, like you're intimate with the guy, like you know him very well? Is that what it means? Right? So if you really know him well, you should be able to recognize him even further away than 4 amot. That you know him very well. He's like he's your buddy. But if you don't know him so good, he's like just an acquaintance or something, Even if you're close with him, right? You're not going to really recognize him. So what are we talking about here? So therefore, Gemara answers, we're talking about a person that you know him, but not intimately. In other words, he's not your best friend, but you know the guy. So he's a friend, like acquaintance, whatever. He's not that close with you, but he's not exactly a stranger either, right? You know the guy. Okay. So he says, "Ke'aden achsanya de'ate lekitzin katvu wa Tosfot." So he says the Tosfot wrote this Yerushalmi. They brought it down. Ve'arosh and the Rosh also. V'zeu shekatav Rabbeinu. This is what Rabbeinu wrote the Tur. Misheirei chaveru v'argil imo k'tzat merachok arba amot v'yakirenu. This is exactly what he meant when he said this. So what did he say? He said like this, right? That you know him a little bit. Whatever, right? Not too well. Okay, good. Let's go on. So he says, Mash katav v'nimshach ad sof hashlosh ha'or. And then it says that, time extends until the 3rd hour. Right? Gam zeh sham, the Mishnah. It's also there in the Mishnah that the 3rd hour is the last time for Shema. V'gomra ad netzach hama. But then it says, right, you should try to finish it until the sunrise, as we said. That's the best time. וגם זה שם במשנה, הוא אומר, זה נצח המה. Rabbi Yoshua אומר, it says Rabbi Yoshua, עד 3 שעות. Rabbi Yoshua says, you have until the 3rd hour. שכח דרך בני המלכים לעמוד ב3 שעות. Why? Because he says, that the royalty people, the princes and kings, that's when they get up. They're lazy a little bit. They live like a luxury lifestyle. So they're lazy. They don't get up, at dawn, like the tzaddikim. They get up in the third hour, 9:30. That's right. They live lazy lifestyle of luxury. So that's the last time, right? Rabbi Yeshua says, you can say. In other words, you shouldn't be more lazy than the king, right? If you're that lazy, oh my God, you got a big problem, right? Hashem should help you. Okay. So then he goes on to say, Gemara, says the Gemara, Yudam Bet, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shemuel, Halacha ki Rabbi Yoshua. Halacha zak Rabbi Yoshua. So halacha is the last time you can say is third hour. But as we said, right, the best time is before sunrise. And it goes on, Katuv Be'agot Maimoniot, right? It says in the Agot Maimoniot, which is a commentary of the Rambam, Shabenu Simcha Katav, this rabbi wrote, Ta'ad Techilat Shar Shlishit Kamar. Oh, so he says, when we say the third hour, we're talking about the beginning of the third hour, not the end. But they pushed him out. They argued with him. And they said, what? They said, no, not the beginning of the third hour. It's the end of the third hour. Come on. That's what comes on Yerushalmi. Right? Also Tosfot. Also the Ram. Adkan. Also the Smag. So all these Rishonim, they go like that. We're talking about the end of the third hour, not the beginning. Also Rambam writes like that as well. Okay, there you go. So as we said, right, my calendar said today it was about 9:20, whatever, something like that, right? So that's the third hour. That's the end of the third hour. But that what you said, that the best thing to do is to read it before sunrise. It's over there in the Gemara, Sham, right, Tet Amud Bet. Amar Abaye, it says Abaye, the tefillin ki acherim. When it comes to tefillin, we do like acherim. The Kriyat Shema, when it comes to vatikin, we do like right vatikin. What does that mean? Before sunrise. The Amar Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan, vatikin hayu gomrin ota ima netzachama. Because those old pious men, right, what they did was they finished it before sunrise. Tanya Namiachi. Right? Also, it teaches there in the Braita. Vatikin hayu gomrim ota ima netzachama. They were finishing it with the nets, with the sunrise. In order to juxtapose the redemption to the prayer. What does that mean? That we say the blessing, right? God Yisrael, which is redemption, and then we start the Amidah. So it turns out that he's praying in the daytime. Right? What does that mean? After sunrise. Rabbeinu Yonah, says Rabbeinu Yonah, so he says, even though those righteous men were reading it right close to the sunrise, but they do admit, right, even those rabbis, they admit that the first time you can say it is before that. As we said, right, after you can recognize your friend. What does that mean? Once you can recognize your friend, right, as we said. From 4 amot. So he says, Rav Huna, who was one of the later authorities in the Talmud, pasak hachi, but that's the way he pasked. Abaye also holds like that. But he's coming to tell you, these vatikin, right? Even because they were very pious, very exacting in the mitzvot, and what they wanted to do is juxtapose the geulah, the redemption, to the tefillah, to the prayer, So therefore, they used to finish it with the sunrise. They should pray right away when the sun comes up. And therefore, right, everything will be together, juxtaposed. The Geula, the redemption, to the Tefillah. But if they would already start to read it at the time where you can recognize your friend, then there will be a big difference, right, between this time and that time, and between sunrise. So they would have had to be late right after Kriyat Shema. In other words, they would have to wait a long time until the sun comes up. They'd have to wait like for an hour, like sit there, twiddle their thumbs, Oh, gee, well, let's wait for an hour, and then we'll get the sunrise. Why would you want to do that, right? It's not a good thing to do. Why would you want to take such a big break like that? So they will not be able to juxtapose the Geula to the Tefillah. Because of that, therefore they had to read it. Right before the sunrise. But it says for somebody else though, he's not really so concerned about the juxtaposing the Geulah to the Tefillah, like ladies, right? Ladies don't have to do this because they don't need to say the blessings of the Shema, right? So they're not really, they're not really part of this whole thing. As we said, right? The Ashkenazi ladies, they can say these blessings, but the Sephardim, they don't say it. So therefore, right? The rule is that the woman doesn't, the Sephardi lady doesn't say Geulah, doesn't say God Israel. So what would she do if that's the case, right? If she wants to do it this way, she would just say Kriyat Shema, right? Before, 5 minutes before sunrise, and then start the Amidah right at sunrise, right? That would be the proper thing to do. Because she's not saying the blessings. Okay, so let's go on. So he says like this, right? That those rabbis admit that if you're not really so careful about that, then what you can do is you can say the Kriyat Shema already at the time where you can recognize your friend. From 4 amot, and recognize him. But he says before that, you shouldn't really read it. It's only b'diavad. It's only after the fact. Or when there's a pressing situation, right? As we said, you got a flight to catch, so forth and so on. That's a different story. Rosh says like that also. That which Abaye said, the Kriyat Shema, right? For Kriyat Shema, for Vatikin, like Vatikin. It's the best way to do it, right? Aval. But he also admits, right, that the beginning of the time is where you can recognize your friend. Kistama the matnitin, like the simple meaning of the Mishnah, ad kan, that's the end of it. So it's also in Rashba. Umash katvu b'rosh v'Rashba. Now which the Rosh and Rashba said, the tchilat zman kriyat gi mishakir ben tchilat levan, that this time is when you can recognize between green and blue, right? As we said, right? That's not the halakha. Doesn't really argue with what Rabbi Yonah said. They were talking about you really seeing your friend from 4 amot. Recognize him. So he says, you know what it is? They're really the same. It's the same. It's the same time. So in other words, there's no machloket. There's no dispute here. It's just that they're giving you a different description. So what does that mean? The time you can recognize your friend is the same time you can tell between blue and green. Okay, good. Let's go on. So it says, who did Kedamina B'Yushalmi? This is what we say in Yerushalmi. Ella Shemedivri Rashba, but it says from the Rashba, Gabe Had Amar, regarding that which that was said by Abaye, the Tefillin, for Tefillin Kiachirim, that we should like Achirim. You had the love Shiur Echad Yinhu. But from there, it seems like it's not really one time. The Agot Maimonides says, this rabbi, commentary on the Rambam, Katvu, they wrote, the Kiyat Shema Kivatikin, Kiyat Shema Kivatikin, the Chen Pasak Ri Alfas. Also, the riff, Pask like that. Alfas is the riff. Okay, the Hatanan, that which we learned, the Tanan that we learned in the Mishnah, Yoma Lamazan Abud Aleph, Av Hi Asta Nivreshet Shel Zahav, B'Shad She'achama Zorachat, Hayu Nitzotzot Yotzot Mimena, V'Yadeu Kol Ha'am, She'giu Zman Kriyat Shema. Wow. So there was this lady, right? Whatever. It says in Gemara there. So she made some kind of a utensil that's made out of gold. Right? The truth is that the simple meaning is like it's a brush or something. I don't know exactly what that means, but anyway, the the time where so when the sun came up, so there would be like sparks coming out of it. You know, this way they knew they knew when the sunrise was. Everybody knew that now Kriyat Shema came, time for Kriyat Shema came. So here it implies a little bit that the Kriyat Shema is after the sunrise. That's only talking about a community where not everybody can, not everybody can calculate the sunrise. So in other words, if you don't know how to calculate the sunrise, what you do is you say after sunrise, because then you can see the sun. If you know how to calculate exactly when sunrise is, right? So then you should that's better to say before. So today, by the way, we have all kinds of ways of calculating this. There's like astronomic, calculation according to astronomy, according to the movement of the planets, right? So there are programs that do this now, computer. So that's how it's calculated today. But in Israel, there's also another method that they use over there, which is that there is some engineer there, who became religious, became a Baal Tshuva. And what he did was he started to use sensors, to measure when the sunrise comes up. So he uses the sensors, some kind of electronic sensors, light sensors, whatever they are. So they measured according to that in Israel, and they made like a calendar according to the sensors. And the truth is that it comes out a little bit later than the astronomic calculation, the sensors. So therefore, a lot of people say, some rabbis say, that whatever it says on your sunrise, on your chart, you should wait like another 2 minutes, because sometimes, it's a little bit too early. So like we wait another 2 minutes sometimes if your chart is like very, average chart, like not really so sophisticated, something simple. Like in the old days, before they had these charts, by the way, what we used to do is we would call, the weather bureau or the army, and they would tell us what time is sunrise. They were the ones who we got the information from them, That was a more primitive way of doing it. But now today there's programs, there's all kinds of things going on. Right? It's like a renaissance, Jewish renaissance going on. All kinds of technology going on today, all kinds of stuff. Right? So Baruch Hashem, there's a lot of things going on. So today, Baruch Hashem, the situation is much better, to calculate the sunrise than it used to be in the old days. But I remember like 30 years ago, what we did was we just had like I'm talking about in America, we just had like the chart, from the Weather Bureau or whatever, and we relied on that. That was it, and the rabbi told me, my rabbi, wait another 2 minutes after that, because it may be a little bit too early, because the calculation is sometimes a little bit off. astronomical calculation. Okay, whatever, right? You get the idea. So, as I already told my friends, by the way, my students, that when it comes to, sunrise, right? If you're not sure when it really is, like 2 minutes earlier, 2 minutes later, wait till the later time, because it's better to pray after sunrise than to pray before. So that's good to know. Okay, good. So anyway, right? But according to what they did over there in Israel, that they're using those sensors over there. So then, right, they say that you don't have to wait 2 minutes because it's very accurate. So go figure. I don't know. I'm not a scientist like this guy, like who made this chart. He made as a scientist, like an engineer. So he knows his stuff. Okay, whatever. So anyway, right, that's the story. Let's go on. So he says, so it says, Udilok Rabbeinu Tam, Shapirish Shazman. So not like Rabbeinu Tam, he says. Right? Rabbeinu Tam says a little bit differently. Says Rabbeinu Tam, Shazman Kriyat Shema hu dafka achanas echama. So he says, right, that the Kriyat Shema, proper time for Kriyat Shema is after sunrise, he says. Rabbeinu Tam. Mikoach hahi matnitin de'aite, because of this Mishnah that we brought, Pirish Vatikin lo asu kedin. So he says, right, that these Vatikin, these old men, right, these ancient men, they didn't really do properly, he says, according to this. Lo asu kedin u'peresh Abaye atzma sover. So he explains that Abaye holds that the real time is after sunrise. The who is Kir's man shel vatikin, but he mentioned these old guys, the days of yore, guys of yore. Because he wanted to exclude the other opinion, which is recognizing your friend. That's what says also Rabbeinu Simcha. Rabbeinu Chananel, not like Rabbeinu Chananel. Shapirash Vatikin Atzmam Lo Ayu Korin Ad Achanas Chama. He says that Vatikin were reading after sunrise, right? V'chen Pasak Ri V'Ravya. All these rabbis also pass like that. V'Ravya Pasak, and Ravya says Rabbeinu Tam like Rabbeinu Tam Ad Kaneshano. So you see, there's several different opinions here about when is the best time for Kriyat Shema. V'Rayot Rabbeinu Tam V'Cholkim Alav Nitbaru Yafeh. So he says the sources for Rabbeinu Tam and the ones that are arguing with him, the other opinions, they're explained very well. He says, but Tosfot, at the end of Tosfot, Sof Perek Amar Lehem Emuneh, over there. This Perek. Uvesamag, and also Samag, V'divya Tosfot Sham Notim. So the words of Tosfot over there are inclined more, the Divya Chokim, the ones who are arguing, Rabbeinu Tam with Rabbeinu Tam. Also, that's what it says in the first perek of brachot. Stam kedivya Rabbeinu Yonah, like Rabbeinu Yonah Rosh. V'chein pasak Rambam. Rambam also passes this way. Perek Aleph Binchot Kriyat Shema. V'chein derov paskim sovim ken. So it says Bet Yosef like this. Since most of the paskim hold that we're supposed to say Kriyat Shema before sunrise, right? That's how we paskin, right? So we paskin, the proper thing to do is to say Shema before sunrise, and then with the sunrise, you start the Amidah. That's the story. Okay, let's go on.
Amen. So then, I have a question.
Yes.
So, if this is supposed to be this way, so when do you recite Korbanot? If you're supposed to recite it during the day, you recite it
so
after?
Depends on how fast you read, right? But like with me, what I try to do is I start the Korbanot about a half hour before the sunrise. So this way I can finish everything, and get to the Amidah at sunrise.
So it takes you. So it takes you 30 minutes.
About a half hour, yeah.
From Korbanot to
Amidah, yes.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. This is my speed, But some other people are different. Some people do in 40 minutes, 45 minutes, God knows what, right? Whatever, right?
I'm a slow reader, so that's why I'm
Yeah, so you gotta make a calculation,
okay.
how long it takes you, and according to that, right, you do the best you can there.
Okay. So, but it's allowed to recite korbanot
After dawn, yes, after dawn.
Okay.
Yeah. Which we said is 72 minutes before sunrise, right?
Yeah.
So you got plenty of time there.
Yes. Thank you.
God bless. Okay, very good. So let's go on a little bit. So he says, Umash katav Rabbeinu v'chen katav Rambam. That's what Rabbeinu said, right? The Torah. That's what it says in Rambam. Hainu lomar. It means to say that the Rambam also holds that the proper time to read the Shema is before sunrise. Right? Not like Rabbeinu Tam, who, as we said, right, who says after sunrise. Umiu mash katav Rabbeinu. That which Rabbeinu wrote, Shizmana, Misheiret, Chavero, Berachok, that which Rabbeinu said, the Torah, that the time is when you see your friend, right? Recognize your friend. Four amot away, and recognize him. No nizkar b'divrei Rambam. It's not mentioned the Rambam this time. It's interesting. Mashma li, so it implies to me, he says, Shehu mefaresh de Rav Huna v'Abaye plige, that he explains in the Gemara that Rav Huna and Abaye are arguing with each other. The Rav Huna Amar, because Rav Huna says halacha ki acherim, halacha is like acherim. The Kriyat Shema, when it comes to Kriyat Shema. Abaye Amar, Abaye says tefillin for tefillin, but dafka ilchata tefillin dafka only for tefillin. So he says hilchata kivatayus, halacha is like them. Aval the Kriyat Shema, when he says comes Kriyat Shema, no, not so. Ela kivatikin, we do like vatikin. Upasak Abaye, the pasuk Abaye, the batahu, because he was the final authority there. When he shekenhu dat arif, that's also the Rif seems to hold this way. Katav, Shkatav, he writes, Amar Rav Huna halacha ki acherim. He says Rav Huna says the halacha is like acherim, like the Amar Abaye. Abaye says the tefillin ki acherim. When it comes to tefillin, look acherim. Kriyat Shema vatikin. When it comes to Kriyat Shema, the vatikin. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, because Rabbi Yochanan says, Vatikin hayu gomrin ota, right? They would finish the Vatikin. They would finish it with the sunrise. That's the halacha says. Since he said that's the halacha, so it comes out that he holds the plige that there's a machloket there. There's a dispute there. Then alternatively he says lo plige. They don't really argue. Mashmale de Abaye mefaresh divrei. Even if you tell me they're not arguing, it implies to him that Abaye explains divrei Rav Huna, the words of Rav Huna, velo amar halacha ki acherim. He didn't say halacha like acherim. Ela litfilin, only regarding tefillin. Ela l'kriyat Shema, but kriyat Shema kivatikin. The halacha like vatikin. The al ma shkatav Rabbeinu b'shem Rambam, and that which he says the Rabbeinu said, name of the Rambam. V'shiur zeh. What's the measure of this time, right? Kemo shiur sha'a echad, like it's 1 hour. Before the sun comes up, before sunrise. So 1 hour before sunrise, right? Katav Mari Avuhab, says Mari Avuhab, Al yakshe beinecha heyach kara Rav, says it shouldn't be difficult in your eyes. How did the Rav over here, right, say, Lazeh hazman me'at, right? That's a little bit of time. 1 hour is a little time. So he says, you know why? Because according to Rambam, the sun comes up, it means that all the sun is coming up. But the sunrise is when it starts to come up, the first part of the sun. The first little slice there, when it comes up. But he says, you know what? There's a different version of the Rambam, different texts. Katuv b'makom shiur sha'a echad. Doesn't say there, instead of saying 1 hour, right? It says isur sha'a. It says a tenth of an hour echad, right? And that's the correct one, by the way. So you know what this means, by the way? Right? This may be like Chinese to you over here. So let me translate it into English, right? So what does this mean? It means that the Rambam is telling you here that the netzach hama, the sunrise, lasts for 6 minutes, right? Which is 1/10 of an hour. So what does that mean? That when the sun starts to come up, the body of the sun, right? Until the whole body of the sun is above the horizon, that takes 6 minutes. That whole process. So all that time is called Netzach Hama. It's called sunrise, So it doesn't, in other words, even if you're a little bit late, and as long as you're within that 6 minute range, you're still at sunrise. So you're good. That's what we're trying to say. And that's exactly why I told you, right? That it's better to do a little bit later than to do a little bit earlier, because you have 6 minutes anyway, of slack there for sunrise. But if you do before, not so good, right? Because you did it, as we're going to see later on, right? That it's still too early. You shouldn't start the Amidah before sunrise. So if you're not sure, wait a little bit more. 2 more minutes, wait, as we said. Okay, we'll do the Shulchan Aruch and we'll stop here. Says Shulchan Aruch, Zman Kriyat Shema shel Shachrit. What is the time of Kriyat Shema of the morning? When you see your friend who you know a little bit, 4 amot away, and recognize him. And this time extends to 3 hours after sunrise. Right? Which is a quarter of the day. Because the whole day is 12 hours, right? So 3 hours is 1/4. But he says the best time to do it is when to do like vatikin, right? The men of yore, the pious men, what were they doing? They were reading it a little bit before sunrise, right? The Kriyat Shema. In order that he should finish the Kriyat Shema, right, with the sunrise, and then go right into Amidah right afterwards. So he says, whoever can do this, right? So make sure you get the app, right? As I told you, download that app. So you know when the sunrise is in your area, right? Each area has a different sunrise. So you got to put in your city, right? Whichever city you live in, punch it in, and it'll tell you what the sunrise is. God bless you, right? So, it says like this: whoever can do it this way, to be precise with this, right? He has a very great deal of reward for that. That's what it says, right? Which is the language of the Rambam. So then he goes on, the Rama, Shiur HaNetzach Hama ukemo Shiur Sha'a Echad Kodem Shesh Alef Ufuk Shemesh Al Haaretz. So he brings this Bet Yosef, right, which we already said is like a typo, right? The from the Rambam, that the proper text of the Rambam here is 1/6 of an hour, not 1 hour. So therefore, not 1/6, 1/10. So we're talking about 6 minutes. So that's as we said, right? That's the amount of time that it takes for the whole body of the sun to come up on the horizon. So all that time is called Netzach Hama. All that time is called sunrise. Okay? Okay, Chazak Baruch. Thanks for coming tonight. Be blessed with wealth, health, happiness. We'll see you tomorrow, Brother Hashem. Be holy, be happy, and good health to everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
God bless.